It's 7 o'clock, so we'll call our meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone, and everyone out there in our audience as well. We'll start out with a moment of reflection. In the past month, we've had Tammy Furlett of Beldoon and Alphonsine Hickey, formerly of Nash Creek. I ask that we have a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll move on to the adoption of the agenda. Just a note for council, if you see the motions like 2021-02-16-14 for the adoption of the agenda, that 16 will be 22 because that 16 was there because our meeting was previously to be on the 16th, so those will change to 22. So all of them will be 22. Okay, so we need any additions or deletions from the agenda? Landon.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one, just a quick discussion point on Rock Networks. We were able to connect with them today and they had a quick update, so I'll give an update to council.
Okay, thank you. Any others? If not, we need motion 2214 to adopt the agenda with the addition.
Mr. Mayor, I will move that the agenda be adopted as amended with changes.
Okay, a seconder?
I'll second it.
Questions? On the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Is there anyone with a conflict of interest in the agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I have a conflict of interest to declare.
Okay.
It's for the item regarding the rental of the arena.
Arena rental. Okay, fill out the form and give it to Brenda. Thank you. Okay, next is the adoption of the minutes. We need motion 2215, minutes of the Committee of Whole meeting and the regular meeting January 18th be adopted as presented. Mover and a seconder, please.
I move that the minutes of the Committee of Whole meeting and the regular meeting of January 18th, 2020 be adopted as presented.
Okay. I'll second. Second by Tracy. Questions? On the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, is there any business arising from the minutes?
Mr. Mayor, not really any business, but in the minutes there was a brief discussion on the upcoming election, and I'm just saying that I'm somewhat surprised that less than 3 months out and no declared candidates yet. So, just a point of observation.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Okay, we'll move on to statements by members of council, and Nick, you're up.
And I'll keep it very brief. The recognition for all firefighters with at least 10 years of service. The project is almost at the point of being forwarded to well, whoever's going to do the artistry part of it, which is, I believe, where Councillor Culligan will be, or Deputy Mayor Culligan will be coming into the fold. An awful lot of phone calls. But I think we've covered most of the ground, and I think that the firefighters, and I hope the municipality will be pleased with the final result. But I think it's ready to go for sculpting by the end of this month. I hope to meet with the fire chief once more, maybe, and some of his entourage, just to make sure that they're good with what we have. And anyway, it'll be nice to put this thing to rest.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Anyone have any questions for Nick? If not, we'll move on to the administration reports. CAO Lee.
Okay, the item that I added was discussion on Rock Networks, Nova Communications. We were able to sync up with them today. They, as all council is aware, their application for the UBF funding program for the broadband in Beldoon is ready to be submitted. Prior to that being submitted, they are looking to set up some sessions with council to be able to explain the application, be able to give you a chance to understand the information that's there, contribute to it. They had a quick meeting with us, with myself and the mayor today. They did get into some pretty detailed financial components of it. So if there was questions around that, I know Councillor Arsenault previously had mentioned about the finance side of things, so there'd be an opportunity there to ask questions and discuss. So just very quickly, they'll probably be looking to do, as they did in the past, with a session during the day and a session in the evening, try to capture everyone there. And then if there's some people that aren't able to attend those sessions, then they could probably reach out to those people individually. So we're expecting that to come in the next few days. I'll give council a heads up on it, but we'll pick a date and we'll get that arranged and make sure that council is brought up to speed on everything where they are right now.
Okay, thank you, Landon. Any questions for Landon?
Oh, sorry. Just just to let council know, sort of an update of where I am with it. I did send a letter requesting specific information. I sent a copy to Landon. He's welcome to share it with council if he so wishes. I did receive a reply. I've got to reissue another letter because it wasn't the information that I was looking for. But they've been good with getting back with the requests. If I've asked something, they're trying really hard to get me the information that I need, I think, in order to support the endeavor. But that's where it's at. I'm hoping at the committee of whole meeting for March next week that I can maybe either read the letter or give an update. Let's just put it that way. Hopefully they'll have enough time to get something back to me, but that's where I am at that. So I told council in December that I would make every attempt to try and get as much information as I could so that I would have an opportunity to perhaps change my initial vote. And I'm doing what I said I would do, so that's where we are with that anyway. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Also, if you wanted, Paul, you could put the letter as part of the agenda, and then all the council would get a copy of it for the committee of whole. Okay.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Sorry. My next item is for the social environmental grant report. So there's a motion there. Something that I just wanted to touch on real briefly on this is that there was two requests that had come in. One was for the DRHS International Students Program. The second one was from a resident that suffered a house fire. I just wanted to, for a point of clarity, I processed this and, we've had lots of discussion around it just, as a standard, amount. I don't believe that this resident I don't think they were the owner of the property. I think it was an NB housing that they were in, and subsequently, I believe that they've been moved to another NB housing, but there was obviously a loss of personal, furniture and different things there. So if council, wanted to readdress the amount, or if they wanted to lower it, then that's council certainly has the authority to do that.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that motion 2021-02-1616, that the social and environmental CAO grant report of February 2021 be accepted as presented and the following grants approved.
Okay, we need a seconder.
Can't vote it down if you don't bring it to the table, guys.
I'll second it.
Okay, second by Tracy. Questions? You have to slide it over.
It's not that it's not missing, the CAO's report is there, but he did not make any recommendation in his report because he was leaving it at council discretion, because it didn't meet the policy. So you'd have to open your attachments to see what the requests were, and the CAO's report in the notes that he made in there.
So, yeah, sorry. So the request that came in for the DRHS program was for $500. That was the same amount that we had contributed. I think the last few years we've contributed the same amount of that. The house fire incident, as with all the other house incidents that we've had in the last little while, was a $400 amount. So the motion, however, council, if we were going to do $500 for the international students program, if there was an adjustment to the $400, then yeah, I guess there just needs to be discussion on that amount.
It was moved by Tracy. Do we have a seconder? Or Sandon, sorry. And Tracy's, second by Tracy. Okay, are there any other questions?
Okay, so lately, what we've been doing for house fires is $400. And there hasn't been any distinction between whether people own their homes or rent their homes or are in a MB housing house, is that what?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I think that any of the other previous requests that have come in
Okay,
are from the property owner.
okay, that's
So
what I'm
this would-
thinking.
This would probably be the first one where they're not the property owner. This would be more geared towards their personal loss.
Okay, and I think that's something we should probably look at because
Yep.
all the other houses that were owned by them they're not being subsidized. So,
Okay,
I think the only argument I'd make against that point
Mic.
is that, my mic's on. Yeah. The only argument I make against that point is just that the $400, regardless of whether they own the house or not, isn't really gonna replace the house or
No,
the
I
structure
get that.
itself, right? So if it's able to, help buy a new mattress, is kind of essentially the crux of what we can get at it with that motion. So I'm inclined just to stamp it, because we haven't made the delineation before. And if anything, I would just say that there's, as a public service announcement, there's been a lot of fires in the last year. Renters insurance and homeowners insurance are big things. I would encourage people to get them because we are kind of tied a little bit at council on how much we can support these types of events. Even more so during COVID when we can't have or facilitate fundraisers. So I'm good for the 400 again, and I won't see the differentiation between the two, but I think some encouragement, maybe some information on some decent policies out there, maybe some affordable ones. And also that is something that the province can lobby. The insurance is a regulated industry inside the province, and we have the power to lobby against, or lobby the provincial government for a little bit of sway. So that's something to look into, I would say. Anyway, that's it. I'm good.
okay, thank you.
I might just
Paul.
add something. These are always very, very hard to sort of make a judgment call on. One thing I would suggest maybe, and again, it comes down to really having a policy with strong parameters, right? But if we do that, what we might be able to do, because I think what happens where maybe some of the citizens might get a little bit upset, if we were to make a policy and really make it a stringent policy, and there'd be nothing wrong with that, fair, but stringent, and say this would take effect January of 2022. It gives you 5 or 6 months where things are phased in, people are educated about it, they understand, and they're not taken surprised by it and say, well, last month, so-and-so asked for a donation and received it. Here we are just a month later, and I'm being told no. So what, if we do sort of begin to take some of these policies and really sort of get some teeth to them, perhaps with one like this, and maybe all of them, you might say, here we are in March or April or May of 2021, but this will take effect on January 1st, 2022. I don't know if that works, but it might give us more of an opportunity to get the word out there that this is our policy starting in such and such a time, and it's hard and fast.
I think, Paul, part of the problem here right now is that we had a good policy in place. The policy was that we would give the rec center free of charge and they could do a fundraiser.
Yeah.
But what's happened with COVID, we can't do that because they can't have the fundraiser. So by January of 2022, my hope is that we'd be able to go back to doing what we were doing, and the policy we have in place will work. That's just a glitch that's in it now because of COVID. So once we get back to 2022, our regular policy should work as it did before, because it worked fine before. We never had any problems.
The only thing is, there are some policies, and maybe this is not one of them, but we do have some policies that are still a little bit too broad. And maybe we need to take a look and see which ones, and maybe, like I said, maybe this is not one, maybe this is one that works. It's just that it happens that we're in COVID. And that's fair, that's probably true.
Yeah, I was just going to say about policy that, I mean, these numbers that we've come up with in the last little while through COVID aren't in our policy. There's nothing about it because it's always been the hardship policy, and that did work great. So this is kind of an emergency hardship policy is what we're looking at right now. So, yeah, I don't know how long it's going to last where we can't have, we can't give them the rec center for fundraisers and that sort of thing. So, not knowing how long COVID is going to last, maybe we should have something in case of.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I have something, yeah, for me, the policy is good, but because of COVID. The thing is, for me, is that we've been kind of going out of the village and giving donations and stuff, and I'm just wondering if it would be possible to update it for the village, more or less, than, like, we've been giving for house fires outside and so on, like, because the people lived here, and, like, I would like to really stick to maybe more for here, the village of Beldoon, and our taxpayers.
Okay, on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, Landon.
Okay, so we have a economic development grant request that had came in from Mr. Claude Courrier with his business. He was able to submit receipts on the renovations that he had done. According to our economic development bylaw that we have in place, we are able to contribute to the increase or the consistency of the tax base. And similar to other grant requests that have come in, we've established the 10% for renovations. So Claude has provided those receipts. I do have in the description on this item that he was to also submit the application, which since then, because the meeting was postponed from last week, later last week, he did submit that. So we do have that. We have all the paperwork required. So there is a motion for the grant allotment of $3,002.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that in accordance with the Economic Development Bylaw number ED01-2019 for Economic Development Grant, Council accepts CAO Lee's recommendation for a grant of $3,002 equal to 10% of eligible cost to Claude Courrier Towing in association with the expansion of his facility for business development pending receipt of, well, I guess the receipt is there. So I guess we can forget about that last part then.
Second by Tracy. Questions? If not, on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, the next one's where you step out. Sandon.
Okay, for this motion, again, we just wanted to have something in place only because in the previous motion that was done, it specified that there would be an agreement brought forth in February. The only hang-up on the agreement was around insurance. We have, all the foundation of the agreement in place. And then ironically, again, today, we were able to actually resolve that. So if we postpone the meeting for one more week, we would have been fine. However, we put in a resolution just to take it to the next meeting, only because the previous one did specify February. So Andre Daigle, our legal advisor, has drafted the resolution that's attached. And by passing that resolution, that gives Hollis and his group the opportunity to advertise with the security of knowing that there is a lease forthcoming. And realistically, we'll probably have that lease together pretty quickly now that we understand the insurance. And sorry, just to touch on the insurance thing, Hollis's group actually is covered by their association. Normally, their association would not have insurance coverage outside of the months that they play. But they've recently changed that, and it was actually our insurance that reached out to Hollis and said, you might want to check that because you probably have full coverage year round. Hollis did, and he does. So it's great. Yeah. So there's no added cost. It's something that's just going to be, we'll just make sure it's included in the agreement that he's got proof of that. So the resolution is there.
Okay, so we need resolution 2218. A mover and a seconder, please.
I'll move that the following resolution regarding Northern Moose AAA Hockey Group, if the CIO proposal be accepted as presented. Resolution, whereas council resolved to proceed on an agreement with the Northern Moose AAA Hockey Group if the CIO evaluated the proposal and it presented a good business case, and whereas the CIO advises council that there is a good business case, the discussions are ongoing and that final details are required to circulate an agreement for approval. Be it resolved that the CAO continue the development of an agreement with the Northern Moose AAA Hockey Group and report back to council as at its regular March meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, questions?
It's not, sorry, Nick.
Well, just a comment, Mr. Mayor. I see this as highlighting our community, and that's always a big issue for me. And I see it as a very progressive and bold move, and that's a really big issue for me. And so therefore, I'm glad that we are having the opportunity to do this. And so therefore, I will, without any hesitation, be supporting that motion.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Paul?
Just two things. First of all, I really liked the way the process developed with this case, and I also agree with Councillor Divenborden. I really see this as being an opportunity for the arena to really get some use at a time when we're coming off COVID. We're trying to jumpstart getting people back into the rink and using that facility. I think actually the timing there is very good. I would ask Landon one thing though, if he could, and if he can't, that's fine, but if he could, at one of the next two meetings, if we could actually, and it doesn't have to be detailed, but just in a very general sense, present the business case to the people and say, this is why we believe in this project. I think that would be very helpful in also having them understand why we're as positive about this project and why they should be as positive as we are, because it has a lot of positive elements. The timing to me is perfect. I think the business case can be made. If we could do that in a very general sense, I think the people would be involved in this decision as much as we are. And I think that would be a very positive thing too.
Sorry, just real quickly on that, Lillian. That's no problem. We've got all of it. There was sort of an economic type component to it that was sort of described in the proposal, and then from our side, it was really financial. To be honest with you, we just wanted to make sure that, you know, we weren't operating at a substantial loss. So no problem. I'll have that ready for the next meeting.
Okay, thank you. Lillian?
I agree that it's a good business case, and it's good that we would give it up to the public. It's rolling out this time much better than the past, and the timing is good, and and it's good for kids, it's good for the community. So, yeah, that's all positive for me this time around.
Okay, any other questions, comments? Okay, if not, on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Yeah, do you want to bring,
Okay, so yeah, the last one for me was a proposal that was received in to purchase some property that the municipality owns. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm skipping over the RCMP. Good thing they're not here. RCMP MOU, so that was provided to council. That needs to be endorsed, and RCMP can then begin to occupy the room that we have here at 2471 Main Street.
so we need a mover and a seconder for motion be 2219.
Oh, okay. Even though they pulled me over yesterday, I will make the motion that council of the Village of Beldoon accepts as presented the Memorandum of Understanding MOU between the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, RCMP, and the Village of Beldoon for occupancy of premises at 2471 Main Street, and the mayor and clerk sign said MOU.
I'll second it.
Okay, questions?
Mr. Mayor, just looking at the MOU again, and the one thing that nags away at me is the fact that we're renting a piece of the building for nothing, and to an organization that charges us plenty. And the dots just don't come together for me, and so I guess in the next 30 seconds or so, I'm gonna have to make a big decision. I recognize a lot of hard work has gone into it, and I understand what the end objective is, but I'm still somewhat taken aback by the fact that it's a rent-free offer, which we haven't done for anybody else, and I think have no intention of doing for anybody else.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Anyone else?
For me, I think it's to have the RCMP in the area, and by having an office here, if that possibility increases to have them here, that's why I would be okay with the rental, the free rental. My question was, I guess, is that, and I asked earlier, what happens if we go regional and we get regional policing and they have the rental? What happens there?
When we go regional, we'll, that space will be paid for by the Regional Service Commission, because it'll be under the Regional Service Commission, and that's already in the concept that has been presented.
Okay, so I mean, that's a good follow-up for my question then, because I didn't see a term on that lease. Mind you, I only read through it earlier today, and then again really quickly right there, but there's no specific term. So I know it's an MOU instead of a lease, so it wouldn't necessarily have to have one, but I didn't see any exit strategy either, so from either party. So I would send that back to Andre and get him to spell out exactly how we terminate or they terminate that residency, because it's not prescribed. Unless I missed it, which is completely possible.
Yeah, I thought that there was something about a written notice, yeah.
I'm having trouble downloading, but I read something in there but I can't get it downloaded here now.
There's, number 12 is early termination. The arrangement may be terminated by either participant upon 6 months written notice.
So, but But we don't have a cap of what the term is right now, so it's just going at least 6 months out every month. All right, that's enough of a turnaround then.
Okay, any other questions?
Just, the RCMP, whenever they're in any kind of building, do they ever pay rent? They own their building about, no? And they rent it from the city?
The city owns that building in Bathurst and they rent from the city.
So why aren't they renting from us?
The interest was to get them here. That was the
I
only-
get
was-
that.
That was the only way we could get them here.
But
They weren't.
in
And-
agreement to
and
what Nick said, we pay a
looking- and
lot.
Looking at it, you know, the way things are shaping up now, that, you know, the study that the province has done is completed. They're just waiting to release it, so there will be some changes made to policing within the province. So I think down the road, you're going to see something altogether different.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, maybe one suggestion we could do is if we wanted to table this till March, and in the interim, ask CAO Lee if he would go back, maybe one more time, articulate our concerns about the lack of rental money coming in. And they may say, we're not interested in budging, or they may say, you know what, if that's a concern, perhaps we can pay X amount of dollars, come to some sort of sum that they would think would be fair. I mean, maybe they just don't know. I mean, this is the first time probably will be hearing from us that this is a genuine concern. It's only a month. I don't think anything is going to break down in the interim, and we could make our case, and they could come back and in a month's time say, no, we would prefer not to pay rent there because we're coming to your village, and at that point, then we could make another educated guess.
Okay, whatever council decides.
Just a quick question, was rent ever on the table?
No.
It was never brought up ever? Okay.
I like Councillor Arsenault's suggestion, but are there negative ramifications from tabling it for 1 month?
Probably not. I mean, from my perspective, the rent was never really, it was never brought up. It was always, you know, I believe, I can't talk to the genesis of it, but I believe what had happened was RCMP approached us and said, it's there, it's ready to use. You have it set up for a local, but it's not being used now. If you'd like for us to use it in the meantime, then we'll have more of a presence here because we have essentially a storefront. So I believe that's how it was sort of approached. I don't think that there's any negative ramifications from it. I would probably expect that we're more than likely just prolonging it a month, but I certainly have no issue at all going back to them and say it's tabled. There is a talk about rent, where are we on this, and go from there. But at least from my perspective, there hasn't been any talk about figures or anything like that. It's just been
Go ahead, Paul.
Just one last thing. They may appreciate the fact that this sets precedent too in our building, where in the future renters would have the legitimate right to say, you know what, you have a renter who's not paying any rent, and we're bringing variable A, B, and C to you by being in your building. The offset of that is we don't feel that we should really need to pay rent. I'm not saying that that's what would happen, but it would be a legitimate argument. And for me, if we bring it back to them and they say, and they come back in a month, because I think we all want them in this building. It's a great asset to have them in the building. But if we go back to them, you might be surprised. They might actually say, you know what, that seems like a very reasonable request. And we weren't certain that it was as important to you as it was, because perhaps it wasn't mentioned. But now that it is and it's before us, we think it's a fair request, and here's what we're willing to pay, and then we get some rent on that space and a tenant, a very valuable tenant. For 30 days, I think it's worth trying.
Okay, so you want to make the motion to?
I've
table?
got one last on that. So I'd love to get some of that money, the $780,000 we pay them back, or pay them every year. I'd love to get some of that back too. So I definitely empathize for the stance of council on this one. I think it's potentially worse than just putting it off a month if we table it, because I don't think that there's a huge burning desire for the RCMP to be here, from the RCMP's perspective. I think the fact that we have a commitment for them to actually come here and show up at least once a day to man the office and do some files, some paperwork in there, and take out the computers and have a car parked here is as much of a payment as we're gonna get from the RCMP. But I put it to the mayor, as he's more well-versed on these matters than I. The province is going through an entire reevaluation on the way that municipalities operate and function, especially in relation to shared services like policing and other entities. It could be very easily construed that in a month or 2 months' time, there'll be an announcement that we are moving to regional policing, in which case the RCMP will have no incentive to come here and man a station or even go through the process of bringing down papers or a computer or whatever the case may be. So I don't know. I think we're better to get them in now and then have go on that 6 month little kicking of the can that we can and get them in, because I think pushing it back for rent is going to be there. I disagree that it's a legitimate argument. If a company came to me and said that you're providing the same services as the RCMP, I'd laugh at them. Because let's just put it this way, I don't expect you to come and take a bullet to protect my family because you're selling ice cream out of the store front at the municipal hall. So that one I don't, I understand where it could be construed, but that's a stretch. And it would be a stretch, but I get why the concern was there. I think we're better just to go off of it, but I would ask the mayor where he feels we are on a timeline to that regional policing model, as well as what the scuttle talk is around municipal reform, because those are two factors that should play into these decisions.
Well, the province has, in a conversation Landon and I had with them, we've had two conversations with Department of Public Safety in the past in the past 3 weeks. The study is completed. It's in translation. They expected, the last meeting was last Tuesday. They expected that the report would have been released by then. That's why they set that meeting up for Tuesday, but it still hasn't been released. But they are gathering information from us as to where we want to go. So, you know, there is some wheels moving, but I would expect within a very, very short time that report is going to be made public, and we'll have a better idea of where we're going. It's all kind of guesswork right now, but, you know, I can certainly see we're not going to stay where we are, that's for sure. We got to either get better policing from the RCMP or go with a regional police force, and it seems more logical to me to have a local police force with local police officers living right in the region, and then it would be to operate the way we are now, because most places and most municipalities in the province are not happy with what they're getting now. So that, you know, I don't have a crystal ball. I certainly wished I did, but if I did, but I agree with you there, Sandon. I think if we can at least get them in here, the sooner the better, and that'll start getting things rolling and give us some of the protection that we're actually paying for.
I don't want Sandon to go too much in shock here, because I do agree with him here. The faster we get the RCMP and having people seeing them in the area. Some of the people drive quite fast, and we all know that 4 o'clock is a fast time. The faster we can get the RCMP in here, I know the rent, I don't think to be a problem, because they're providing us a service. It's a 6-month window, and if when regional comes in, then, you know, at least we have them here at that time.
So, okay. You want- Okay. Okay, on the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay? Two nays? Tracy and three yeas. Motion carried. Okay, next one is your property.
Okay, so this is the proposal for the property. I did provide quite a bit of information in the emails to council, so just to kind of high level it for the public and on sort of what this is. And Brenda might be able to chime in here because I wasn't really a part of the process previously. But my understanding is that the municipality did a few years back procure some property at the end of Gagnon Street. With the intent of potentially extending Gagnon Street and its services, and this property was to be used as a turnaround point for DTI. As we all know, if they're going down a road, then they would need an area to turn around. Subsequently, I believe that it was identified the road after the paved component of Gagnon Street was on private property. So the property that we currently own right now is not accessible. It's on private land. So there does not really, I wouldn't say that it would be viable that we would go through an expropriation process to procure land and then, build the road up to a standard and install a turnaround. So the land right now, for at least from an administrative perspective, there's not really any use to it. The amount of money that was offered was less than fair market value. Mr. Stevens did identify the reasons for that in his proposal. Andre has drafted a relatively long resolution here with a couple of the components that would be in the sale agreement if council did want to proceed with that. There has been some communication around whether or not, we could potentially get more. Keep in mind, this was an unsolicited proposal. This was just something that we received in. It's not been advertised. It's not been, put out there in any fashion. So if council wanted to do that, we absolutely, we definitely could do that. One of the things that Andre did include in the resolution that I just wanted to touch on real quick was that he did know from previous property that was sold for less than fair market value, there was a provision put in that the purchaser be responsible for the legal fees. So Andre went ahead and included that in this. I did touch base with Morris Stevens on it. And he was okay with that, provided that, it could be facilitated with his lawyer, which I don't think is an issue. At the end of the day, it's all the same thing. It's all going to happen the same way. But yeah, that's the proposal was received in. From our side, I don't really see any use for the land. It's 90 feet by 90 feet. It would probably be more useful for somebody who owns property adjacent to it, like Mr. Stevens does. And I don't see, us utilizing that property in any capacity in the near future. So I'll leave it with council to deliberate. But if there is a desire to move this land, then the resolution is there.
Okay, so we need to get the resolution on the table, so we need motion 2220.
I will move that the following resolution for the property purchase offer for PID 502107998 be accepted as presented. Resolution. Whereas the Village of Beldoon owns the land along a private unserviced roadway that extends beyond Gagnon Street and is further identified by the apparent PID number 502107998, currently assessed at $5,700. And whereas the Village of Beldoon has received an unsolicited proposal to purchase the property for $2,000, along with a proposal to improve the land and possibly build a residence in the future. And whereas the Village of Beldoon has no plans for the property in question and the land is no longer required. And whereas the municipal policy on the disposal of municipal assets, DA 11-2014, allows council to list the land for 6 months before considering other methods of sale, and because of the unsolicited proposal, council does not want to list the land, but rather consider the unsolicited proposal. And whereas the economic development bylaw allows council to sell land at a price below market value, be it resolved that council authorizes the sale of the land identified by PID 502-10798 for a price that is below market value. Be it further resolved that the land does not have to be listed for 6 months because council received a reasonable offer. Be it also resolved that council directs staff to prepare an agreement of purchase and sale for the property identified by PID 502-10798 that would take into consideration the asking price of $2,000, that the property is located at the end of a private section of roadway that does not have municipal services, that the village does not provide any guarantee or warranty as to how the land can be used, that the purchaser is responsible to conduct his own due diligence to see if his projects would comply with municipal bylaws, the work identified by Mr. Stevens that is required on the land and his responsibility to pay for it without municipal assistance, that the purchaser is responsible to pay the legal fees related to the transfer of land, i.e. title search, surveying, AFR, transfer tax, registration, etc., and other applicable closing fees for both the purchaser and village. Be it also resolved that the agreement be brought forward at council's next meeting for review and approval.
I'll second that.
Okay, questions?
Just a comment, Mr. Mayor, for a host of reasons, it would appear that the property had become more of a liability than an asset. And because of that, where I first had some reservations, those reservations have long since dissipated, and I'm ready to support the motion.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Anyone else? Paul?
2 things. First of all, to the RCMP, I voted yes. And secondly, I agree with Nick, and it seems to be that's the case. And I think sometimes there are some assets that it's probably better off that you dispose of them, if that's the proper word, at least transfer them. I think this might be one of them, so I would agree.
Okay, thank you, Paul.
Okay,
Lillian?
for me, and after knowing the size of the property and that you had to pass private property to get to it, and like Nick and Paul, I agree that it's maybe the best way is to sell it to somebody that can use it for better purposes.
Okay, Tracy?
My only question is, Mr. Stevens is quite well aware that it is an unserviced piece of land and that there is no plowing service, that's not going to be requested in the future. Is that his understanding? Is that our understanding?
That's going to be written into the agreement.
Okay.
Furthermore, if there was a structure built on that prior to the building permit being issued, the planning commission would first seek council's approval for a resolution that specified, that there would be no services on that road.
Okay.
He's very well aware.
That's all I want to know.
Okay, on the question.
Oh, no, sorry, Mr. Mayor, I got one.
Oh,
I know it's, oh, there we go, cool. I know it's a little late in our mandate to be mentioning precedent. Or be concerned about requesting precedent. The village has not been devoid of controversies around land and land access and appropriation and conflict like that. Whereas I agree with the sentiment of the rest of the council that this land really holds no strategic value or potential economic value for the village. The village council has gotten in trouble in past iterations when selling land or purchasing land without putting it out to the public in market. I remember maybe not even a year ago coming with an unsolicited proposal and myself as a private entity and being told that it would only be fair if it was open to the rest of public. So I have a sneaking suspicion that Mr. Stevens will get his property, and I'm happy to watch it go off of the village's books, but I think that if the precedent is set that there's supposed to be a 6-month open market bidding war for it, I think that's what should be followed.
That's a great point, and I've had many discussions over this. Just for a point of clarity, our policy actually doesn't specify that, which is very confusing. And a lot of the language that Andre included in this is because the way our policy is written is not very clear. So just as a point of clarity, what our policy says is that if we are disposing of land and we do not receive an offer within 6 months, then council can instruct the staff to find another means of disposing it. So it actually doesn't specify. Now, this is one of the policies that I'm going to look to have cleaned up very, very soon, just because it was incredibly difficult to navigate through it, even with this simple process where, I read it and the lawyer read it and, a couple different eyes and everyone sort of interpreted a certain way. And then we really delved into it. But it's an excellent point. It doesn't have a procedure for it. The 6-month period is actually only specific to if we don't receive a proposal after marketing it for 6 months, and then it allows for. So, but yeah, it needs to be cleaned up. It's actually not part of the process, but it was because it read a certain way. That's why the lawyer sort of captured all of those 6-month terms in his resolution.
Okay, thank you, Landon. Paul?
Well, just one thing, just a point of clarification. There is a bit of a difference in the two. People have known forever this land exists. It's not like this is a secret and nobody knew it existed. So to make that comparison that has been made a few minutes ago, that they're equal, no, they're not. This is not an unknown entity. The other was. And that's the difference between the two, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay.
Nay.
1 nay. Motion carried. Okay, Brenda.
Okay, the financial report for the general operating fund from January 1st to the 31st. We had a bank balance carried from December 2020 of $1,242,683.63. We had deposits of $2,179, e-payments of $796.36, direct payment of $1,380, direct payment from the province of New Brunswick of $412,434, direct payment province of New Brunswick for lane marking $14,893.10, arena cash deposits of $2,026, and e-transfer payments of $111, and interest revenue of $683.41, for total deposits of $434,502.88. We had checks that were issued from January the 1st to the 31st of $300,025.41. There was the payroll of, the first payroll of 2021, which was processed at the end of December, which would be $8,392.33 in the negative. Accounts payable, direct payment of $12,555.40, direct payment service New Brunswick $10, direct payment work health and safety $1,144.97, bank charges of $69.69, MasterCard payments of $2,918.70. We had a transfer to the General Capital Reserve Fund of $700,000 and a transfer to the General Operating Reserve Fund of $200,000. We had checks that were outstanding at the end of December that had cleared of $254,682.01, and checks outstanding at the end of January of $82,137.35. The current account balance as of the end of January was $296,310.01. The capital reserve account balance was $2,639,730.94. Capital operating reserve account balance, $200,023.01. Gas tax fund, $545,131.01. We had accounts payable at the end of January of $23,659.60. The current accounts receivable, we had the 2019 outstanding receivable of $115. That'll be written off when we do our financial year end. And we had 2020 receivable of $5,595 and a 2021 receivable of $5,595. We have due from the general utility operating fund $6,000. We have due to the general utility operating fund $6,194.51, and due from the gas tax fund $30,597. Get your breath. Utility operating fund, January 1st to the 31st. We had the bank balance carried of $11,264.44, deposits of $29,316.56, direct payment of $17.98, e-payments of $2,250, and interest of $8 for total deposits of $31,592.54. We had checks that were issued from January 1st to the 31st of $414.32, and $13,000 was a check issued from the 1st to the 31st. We had less checks that were outstanding in December had cleared of $358.85, and checks that were still outstanding at the end of January of $386.74. So the current account balance at the end of January in the utility fund was $29,470.55. The capital reserve account balance was $53,909.08. Operating reserve account balance was $6,880.11, and the trust account balance was $28,488.77. We had accounts payable as at the end of January of $3,717.18. The current accounts receivable, 2020, we still had a residential receivable, $275, and industrial, $7.95. 2021 from January to March, residential, $10,935, and on the industrial, $3,373.16. So we have due to the general operating fund, $6,000, and due from the general operating fund, $6,194.51. It's hard to breathe. That's
All right, thank you, Brenda. We need motion 2221. Mover and a seconder, please.
Oh, I'll move that, Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the financial report be accepted as presented, and the accounts payable be paid.
Right,
I'll second it.
second motion. Questions?
Yeah, just one question, Mr. Mayor, if I could. I see the receivable that, one for 2020, which, and I guess it's 2020, and again for 2021. I assume that's the same receivable? And that's under general operating, and I'm just wondering if that's a disputed payable or, and if it's local or not.
No, the one in 2020, it's from the province, and it's an invoice that they mislaid, and when I noticed it, they hadn't paid it, so I reissued it to them again. And then the one from the 2021 is the same, it's for the LSD fire services.
Oh,
So they had missed one in 2020, and I didn't see it until I was going through my books really closely. So, yeah, so that's getting fixed. And the other one's for the first quarter of this year.
okay, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, on the question? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, we move on to the refinance debentures.
Okay, we will have two debentures that need to be refinanced this year. This one being one in the spring and one in the fall. So the one before you would be the debenture BE 24-2011 in the amount of $126,000, and the maximum amount of time that we can refinance it for would be 5 years. So the resolution before you is the one that the Capital Borrowing Board needs for us to submit to them.
Okay, so that would be 22-23 resolution. Move in a seconder, please.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the following, geez, it's foggy in here. That the amount of $126,000 is due to be that's right, that the following resolution for application to the NB Municipal Finance Corporation to refinance debenture BE 24-2011 in the amount of $126,000 for a 5-year term be adopted.
And we need the resolution.
Oh, my. The application, so the resolution is an application for financing. Resolved that the clerk and/or treasurer and/or mayor be authorized to issue and sell to the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation, a municipality of Beldoon debenture in the principal amount of $126,000 on such terms and conditions as are recommended by the New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation. And be it resolved that the municipality of Beldoon agree to issue post-dated checks payable to New Brunswick Municipal Finance Corporation as and when they are requested in payment of principal and interest charges on the above debenture.
I'll second that.
Okay, questions? On the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against, nay. Motion carried. Okay, we move on to correspondence. Brenda, please.
Okay, we have, my correspondence. Okay, in the correspondence we have the Restigouche SPCA monthly report for January 2021, Atlantic Railway Maintenance Track Inspection report for February, and Elections New Brunswick announcement of the May 10th municipal general elections. We have magazines and newsletters, District Francophone Northeast Annual Report 2019-2020.
Okay, that was it for you, Brenda? Yep. Okay, we need motion 22-23.
I move that the meeting is adjourned at 8:03.
Second, Tracy. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Against, nay. Motion carried. Meeting is adjourned.